All right, so we are getting into the reason behind why we've been doing all this factoring, and it's actually why we did factoring in the beginning of the year as well, which actually kind of stretched into the middle of the year and kept going and kept going and kept going. So what you're going to do in this video, since we're on remote, is this is your lesson for the first day of remote. You're going to take notes on this video, and then you're going to take a picture of those notes and you're going to submit that. That's going to be your first assignment. And then your second assignments for Friday technically is already posted, but you can go ahead and knock that out whenever you want. You're going to do the day 2 of the worksheet that you already have, and you're going to bring that with you to class on Monday. We'll go over those answers to make sure you have that. And then just a reminder, I'm sure I'll say this at the end too, and you'll see it on Google Classroom. Make sure you submit your homework from Wednesday electronically. That would be the day 1 problems. And then also make sure you have your mixed review for the week ready to go on Monday. And you'll bring that to class with you on Monday. All right, so the first thing you're going to get down, obviously, is your heading. And remember, you can pause this at any time. You might find, if you're not on the YouTube video, that pauses easier than the other link. That's what we found in the past, or at least more recently, has been working better. So you might want to switch over to that if you haven't. So then you're going to write down this zero product property. This is what allows us to do the solving after we factor. The zero product property says if A times B equals 0, the only way that can be true is that one of those things has to be 0. So A is 0 or B is 0. So if you have 2 things or more than 2 things that are multiplied and it's equal to 0, at least one of those is 0. So we used that in the past to solve something like this. We said, oh, if I have a trinomial and it's equal to 0, one way to solve it, we had 5 if you remember, but one way to solve it, we said, hey, let's try and factor this. So this was one of what, at this point, we kind of consider basic factoring. Signs were the same. Factors of 40 that give us 14 would be 4 and 10. So we set it up like this. Now remember, technically what we were doing is we were saying x plus 4 would have to be 0, x plus 10 would have to be 0, and we solved each one of these. So x would be negative 4 and x would equal negative 10. We didn't show those little equations every time, and we won't have to today either, but that got us to our 2 answers of x is negative 4 and x is negative 10. One thing we kind of talked about way back when we started solving these, and we talked about, or will continue to talk about, is this degree kind of talked about how many answers we had. We could have 2. Sometimes we had just 1. Sometimes we had imaginary answers. Well, we never had more than that. But occasionally we had something where it was x cubed and we had a GCF, and then sometimes we saw 3 answers. We'll come back to this idea in this section maybe, or maybe we'll wait next week and we'll talk about it more and the number of answers we're seeing in problems. All right, so let's apply it to some of the factoring we've been seeing later on, or we've been seeing in this chapter. So let's look at y cubed minus 5y squared equals 0. So remember, whenever you factor, the first thing you want to do is you want to look for a GCF first. Always do that when you factor. So the GCF here is y squared. Whenever your GCF is a variable, you don't want to lose track of it. So I don't divide and get rid of it like you do with a number. You have to keep that, and here's why. When I pull that out in front, this is going to give me an answer because y squared is equal to 0. Technically, I'd square root both sides. You don't have to show that. But y is equal to 0. If I just divided and I just said, oh, I'm going to divide everywhere by y or by y squared, and I just said, oh, that just means y is minus 5 equals 0, I would just say y is equal to 5. I would have lost that y is equal to 0. So you want to make sure you pull that GCF out in front. Maybe it's easier if I just do it this way. So pull your GCF out in front. That way we see we have two answers there. So I'm even going to say this, pull your GCF in front. Next one. 6x to the fourth minus 27x cubed minus 15x squared equals 0. So again, we're always looking for that GCF first. You're going to see quite a few of them in the beginning probably on the assignment. So I'm looking, I see an x squared. See anything else in common? They all have a 3. Be paying attention to that number 2. That's going to make your factoring easier. So pull out that 3x squared. If it helps you to show your division, certainly show it. You don't have to. Ooh, it's going to be a guess and check, unfortunately. We're going to have 2x squared minus 9x minus 5 equals 0. Don't lose track of that GCF. So 3x squared. Here's that guess and check. So 2x and x. If you lose that equals 0, it's not the end of the world, but we want to try and make sure we're keeping it. So I'm going to have opposite signs. See, I want kind of big, so I think I want the 5 over here, the 1 here. That would be 10, so I think we want that to be negative 10, positive 1. So negative 10x, positive 1x, that does give us negative 9x. Remember that check. And so when I check, I do get negative 9x. We're solving. So anytime I have a GCF that has an x, we are going to get 0. If I want to show that, I divide by 3. X squared is equal to 0. That means x is equal to 0. Anytime a GCF includes x, that means x equals 0 is an answer. And you don't have to write that part down if you feel like you got it. Let's see, this part got a little sloppy in here. I'm not sure what was happening. That's a plus 1 in there, not an 11. So let's see, we're going to have 2x equals negative 1. So x equals negative 1/2. In this one, we're going to get x equals 5. 3 answers in that one. All right, moving on here, we've got 3y to the fourth minus 15y cubed equals 6y squared. And if you want to use x's for all your problems, you're certainly welcome to change them all to x's. So remember, just like before when we were seeing these, we want to get them all equal to 0 before we can factor, and we want to get it in standard form. So I'm going to subtract y squared, and I'm going to make sure it's in standard form before I factor. This is very similar to the last one when I look at this. Y squareds in all of them. Remember, you're looking for that smallest exponent. That will be your GCF as far as a variable. 3 also goes into all of them. So I can divide them all by 3y squared. So that means I will have a GCF of, I'll have a 0. I'll have a solution of 0 if I can speak today. So I'm going to be left with y squared first, minus 5y. Let's see, minus 2 equals 0. Like maybe I've done something wrong here. Double check before I get too far. I don't have you guys to fact check me here. Well, this will be 3 minus 5. I think I'm okay. Here's why I was saying that, because I go and I look at this and I'm like, this does not factor. When something factors, how else do we have to solve? We're going to have to use that good old quadratic formula. So, quadratic formula for this. Remember your quadratic formula. X equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. In this case, it's y, but if you forget that, that's okay. So y is equal to positive 5 plus or minus square root negative 5 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 2 all over 2 times 1. Let's I didn't bring my calculator in here with me. Let's see. We've got 25 plus 8, so that's going to be 33. So no perfect square in there, no I that I need to worry about. So that's going to be actually two answers because it's positive and negative. Oh, don't forget about that GCF we talked about. So we're also going to have an answer of 0. So don't be surprised if you have to use the quadratic formula. All right, let's try another one. Oh, x cubed plus 6x squared minus 4x minus 24 equals 0. So another new type of factoring we had in this chapter was grouping. So we're going to group the first two, and we're going to group the second two. So I look for GCF in the first two, x squared. So I pull an x squared out in front. It's going to leave me with x plus 6. Remember in that second pair, I look, oh, that's negative. So my GCF is going to be negative 4. Sometimes when it's negative, I like to show that division. So it's going to be positive x, positive 6. That's good. They match. So then I pull out that matching parenthesis, x plus 6. It's going to leave me with x squared minus 4. Now at this step, you have a couple different options. This does factor, so I can keep factoring it. My other option is a little bit different. What I was doing before is I was factoring, this is in what I was doing a couple days ago, I was factoring this because I was asked to factor. But now since I'm solving, if I wanted to do a different method, I could. What would my other method be? Oh, I could quadratic formula. That'd take a long time. I could also square root method there. Well, I already factored, so I just went ahead and I said x is negative 6, x is negative 2, x is positive 2. But if you caught that you could solve by the square root method, your answers might look a little different. You might say, oh, x is negative 6. If you're going to do the square root method, I would like to see x squared is equal to 4, and you throw the square root on top of that. Then here's what we need to remember. If you're doing the square root method, plus or minus. It's been a while since we've done it, so it's a lot of times we forget the plus or minus. So our answer might look a little different because we'd write plus or minus 2 instead of two separate answers. Those are the same thing. All right, here's another one. 2x to the 5th minus 14x cubed plus 24x. This might be a good one for you to pause and try it on your own before I go through it. GCF in this one. Unfortunately, no number, but we do have a GCF of x. So then I'm going to be left with 2x to the 4th minus 14x squared plus 24. Oh, there was a number. Now that I write it down, silly Miss Hogue. 2 goes into all of them. So 2x is my GCF. So then x to the 4th minus 7x squared plus 12. Oh, it's one of those x to the 4th that we factored before. So that means I break it up into x squared and x squared. Signs are the same, both negative. Factors of 12 that give me 7, that would be 4 and 3. So this would be one that I could do a difference of squares here at factors. But this one is not a difference of squares. So when I go to solve this, I'd have to use the square root method. So I might as well use the square root method here. So I might as well start solving. So here's a GCF with x. That means x is going to be 0. Here, I'm going to say x squared equals 4. So I'm going to square root. So x equals plus or minus, 2. And just a little reminder, if this had been negative 4, remember we'd need an I in our answer. Here, x squared is equal to 3. So x is equal to plus or minus square root of 3. Hopefully you did okay on that. Hopefully you did a little better with GCF off the bat than I did. Okay, next one. 18x cubed equals 50x. Remember, don't divide right here. This is when a lot of people see this and they think GCF right away, but you got to get it equal to 0 first. So I'm going to subtract that 50x over. Then I'm going to say, oh, there's a GCF. 2 goes into both, as well as x. Saw it that time. So 9x squared minus 25. Oh, that's a difference of squares. So I could square root. This is one that people do tend to like to factor a little more just because of that 9. So I'm going to do 3x plus 5. Whoops. Let me erase that. And 3x minus 5. I'll show you the square root method too, just in case. So again, that GCF, I'm going to have x is 0. Here I'm going to have 3x is negative 5. So x is negative 5/3. That means this one must be x is positive 5/3. Square root method would have looked like this. Don't forget that GCF of x is 0. I would have said 9x squared is equal to 25. X squared is equal to 25 over 9. Remember, when you go to take the square root, you take the square root of the top and the bottom. So you would have said plus or minus 5/3. So either way would have worked on that. I think we just have... we'll get by with just 3 more. Let's do this one. 6 or x to the 6th minus 9x squared plus 36 equals 4x to the 4th. We got to get it equal to 0. So let's subtract 4x to the 4th. Let's put it right in here. So we're going to get x to the 6th minus 4x to the 4th minus 9x squared plus 36 equals 0. So we got to group the first 2, and we got to group the second 2. So, good one maybe to try on your own, a grouping one. Ooh, GCF of x to the 4th. So x to the 4th gets pulled out, leaves me with x squared minus 4. GCF here, negative 9, leaves me with x squared minus 4. Well, this one's kind of different. Look, we've got x squared x to the 4th minus 9. And what matches is x squared minus 4. Ooh, this is going to be a doozy. I can't do the square root method if it's to the 4th. So I got to break that up. Difference of squares. X squared plus 3. X squared minus 3. Well, I might as well go ahead and break that up since I went ahead and factored. X plus 2, x minus 2. This doesn't factor. This doesn't factor. All right, we're ready to square root method. Oh, here's one that I was talking about. We're going to get x squared equals negative 3. So when I go and square root, I'm going to do plus or minus I square root of 3. This one, x squared equals 3. So x equals plus or minus square root of 3. Now this was a doozy. X equals negative 2. X equals 2. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 answers. If you got all those on your own, that's pretty impressive. We're doing pretty well. Let's see if we can wrap this up with just 2 more problems. Let's do this one. Maybe give this one a shot on your own. Let's see. GCF. GCF is just 4. X to the 4th plus 10x squared minus 11 equals 0. So it's one of those x squared problems. Let's see, positive and negative. We want 11 and 1. We want 11 to be positive, 1 to be negative. I can't factor this one. This is a difference of squares. But since I'm going to have to do the square root method here, I might as well just do it on both. Do I have 0 as an answer? No, because this is not an x. So 0 minus 4, or 0 equals 4 rather, is not an answer. So it's only x equals 0 when there's a 0 in the GCF. So I don't care about that 4 if there's not an x there. So we're just solving for these. X squared equals negative 11. So x equals plus or minus I squared root of 11. Here we're going to have x squared equals 1. This one people forget about. Don't forget you can take the square root of 1. It's just 1. X equals plus or minus 1. All right, one more. We haven't looked at one like this. X cubed plus 125. Remember what kind of factoring this is? It's that sum of cubes. That smiley face factoring, if you will. We're going to take the cube root of each term. So we're going to have x. Cube root of 125 is 5. Then we're going to use that to make it a trinomial. We're going to square x squared. We're going to multiply them together, 5x. We're going to square 25. Signs are the same, opposite, positive. So I bring down the same sign, I switch to the opposite, I end with positive. So that's not bad. Downside is this doesn't factor. If I have this trinomial that doesn't factor, you got it. Quadratic formula. I can solve this. X equals negative 5. I got to do the quadratic formula here. Here it goes. See if you can do it. Since we did that one practice earlier, maybe see if you can do it without me. I'm going to have positive 5 plus or minus square root negative 5 squared minus 4 times 1 times 25 all over 2 times 1. 5 plus or minus. Let's see, this is 25 minus 100. So this would be, we're going to get to do some reducing. Whoops, negative 75 all over 2. So I know I'm going to need an I. There's also 25 in there 3 times. So we're going to have 5 plus or minus 5i square root of 3 all over 2. And don't forget you do have that negative 5 as an answer as well. Okay, so when you're done here, you're going to submit your notes electronically on Google Classroom. So that's one of your assignments. Then your other assignment is to do day number 2 on worksheet 5.4. And so you should have that worksheet. If you don't, or you weren't at school, or you lost it, whatever, it is attached to the Google Classroom assignment on Friday, just because I needed to post those things for our remote assignments. You are going to bring that with you on class on Monday. And that way we'll be able to go over answers since you're kind of quote unquote learning this on your own. Monday, you will also need your mixed review. So that's for Monday as well. And then make sure also electronically you submit day number 1 problems. And this is by, I think I told you, by Friday, you get those submitted. If you have any questions, make sure you shoot me an email or let me know on Google Classroom.